Hello, everyone. I finally resigned from the position that I was in. I expressed that I was in a position that I am on the verge of resigning, and thankfully, I've done that. I've taken that leap of faith, but most importantly, I've gathered the courage to, take that step. And it's sad that it came a bit late because I was offered a position last week, 2 weeks ago at most, that was a 50% increase. And it was just a provisional offer because it was within the government. So I was not willing to risk a permanent position and long-term position that offered flexibility, which is my current role, for something like that. And I'm obviously experiencing some level of regret. I also am seeing this as okay, let me take it easy. Let me take a break from all of this. Given the fact that I'm also new to this area, I've been here a few months, I'd say. I moved here in February, and although, it's been a few months now, it's been a very difficult process to adjust to the cultural shift, especially as a New Yorker, which brings me to also reason why I left this workplace. I found that there was a lack of awareness and understanding of different people from different walks of life that looked different, right? There wasn't that emphasis on cultural competency in the workplace. And to me, hearing and seeing, more so hearing, I've seen discriminatory behavior, or what I sense discriminatory behavior, in some of the schools that I've worked in here and there, but at the hospital, I've definitely noticed more verbalization with discriminatory behavior. And that's something that I've said and I've mentioned, and I'll keep saying that I will not tolerate. I don't want to be in an environment that upholds that or doesn't address it, right? And I understand that there's so many people and it's very difficult to address, but providing the knowledge and training that is required, which I found existed when I was living in New York City and was emphasized there. I don't see that here, right? I don't see that desire to even implement it to the degree that it should, given the fact that the patient population that we served were all Latin American immigrants, and there was a lot of just racial biases all in all. And it's sad because here you are, right? And I was working at a hospital. Here you are as a hospital hiring someone that speaks Spanish. I am bilingual, and someone that represents that very community, and showcasing discriminatory behavior to that very community is just mind-boggling. Like, you want to hire someone that is going to be able to bring in those patients, be able to, access the benefits that can come with that individual naturally, because they can get grants, right, from the government. They can get funded by the government. And I've seen this before in other positions. I worked at a startup, healthcare startup, when I was in California. And I remember the individuals that supervised me, which were white women, reprimanding me about ensuring that I was reaching out to all of the Latino community, which naturally they were taking advantage of, due to the fact that my closest friend and confidant during that time there, who was a nurse practitioner, stated that they were using codes that were for cancer patients, that they could generate more money in order to be able to naturally make more money. And it was the immigrant population that they were serving for the most part. And they were also spreading me thin, while these individuals that reprimanded me were white women that didn't speak Spanish. Made absolutely no sense to have them there, given the fact that they expected me, woman of color, a woman that speaks English and Spanish, to do all the work and labor for them, right? They couldn't speak Spanish. how are they helpful in that position where I'm having to speak to just about everyone while you're not doing anything? It just doesn't make sense. So I've noticed this discrepancy in a lot of workplaces where it's like, y'all want my skills, y'all want the knowledge I have, y'all want the experience I have, y'all want the representation. But at the same time, when all is said and done, you also don't want to pay what that is required or treat the individual with the respect and dignity. And not only myself, because it's not only about myself, but it's also about those that we're serving, right? If there is any ignorant statements or any poor treatment to those communities also reflect myself. I pretty much see myself in them, right? We look very similar. So if you're treating that individual poorly, you would also treat me like that if I weren't maybe an English speaking individual, or if I wasn't born in the USA, right? So I never like that, and I've seen right through these business tactics that also I was strangely enough, or coincidentally enough, I was watching a video, and it's regarding an individual in the health sector or field that or more so the area that I'm trying to get into. And they specified how the hospitals or, a lot of, clinics, whatever it may be. I've worked in a clinic before, and I've noticed that they definitely give us, they definitely not only pay us well, which it was a small nonprofit clinic, pay us well, but they also gave us like money during our birthday celebrations, the holidays. They did all these incentives in addition to that. Not only did they pay us well, they also gave us money. And mind you, this was a nonprofit that was primarily made up of people of color. But here I am working for entities, right? Or larger corporation companies that are ran by white people that have or make what is it, $1 million a year or whatever it may be, $1 million plus a year, and they can't even give you good pay. And this is not only for myself, but all the other individuals, be they of whatever, background, community, they're not giving these individuals decent or good pay, which is something that the individuals specified, like, sorry, why give us all of these small gifts, pens, pizza, which is something I also observed in this location, Starbucks giving us free sample Starbucks drinks, giving us free, I don't even know what they are. They're like these rubbers that you, I guess, put on like a drink. I've never seen it before until I went there, and I was like, what is this? Giving me like a $5 coupon to takeout place that was unhealthy, giving me buttery popcorn that literally said nutritious and delicious. I was so appalled by the disconnect at this hospital. It was mind-boggling, and it was like, why are you giving us all these little gifts and not giving us good pay? And I say that to say that, I feel like the current regret in me is more so not taking the other opportunity where there is great pay. My supervisors represent a diverse group beyond myself, right? Beyond necessarily the Latino community. And that is an important thing for me. Like all these small aspects, I guess it's also a matter of what you value. What do you want in your workplace? And I know I want good pay, but I also want an environment that is inclusive, right? And diverse. So yeah, that's something I wanted to mention, just because I feel like this environment has definitely led me to realize that not everywhere I go, and naturally maybe I had this misconception of like, well, it's a US, what can be too different, right? And especially since I live not too far from New York City when all is said and done. It's like, how how different can it be in these neck of the woods? But it's like, wow, it's like I entered another country almost. And I say this about the USA. Like the USA, we often think, oh, it's all the same, but it's like, no, the culture, the way of life and places, the politics and places are vastly different. The demographics are so different. And I find that makes the environment, like, one thing I know is like every workplace I've been to so far has been more or less the same. And it's really saddening because it's like, I've been working since I was 13. Yes, with a work permit from school. So it's like, I've lived my life, the majority of my life, working. I enjoy working and feeling busy, feeling productive, feeling like I'm doing something, and also earning money in the process, right? So being in a position where it's like, all of these places I set foot in make me feel uncomfortable, it's a sad reality because no one should feel uncomfortable. No one should be in a place where they are not valued, right? And not being valued is not only not being represented in your as an individual, right? For your identity, for who you are, but also pay. Like, how are you going to make a living if you're being underpaid? And it's unfortunate that in this case, since I've been in the healthcare sector for a bit, and the healthcare sector has so many issues in itself, where it's like extremely, extremely expensive and unaffordable. The bills that I've seen, being that I'm on the financial end of healthcare with my role that I just resigned from, I was appalled. I was truly appalled, and all of this money being generated is not even being put into the individuals that are doing the hard work, doing the labor. They underpay staff. And also another thing I noticed is that the hospital that I was working in, although they could care less about diverse communities and marginalized communities and, POCs, individuals that look like myself, they managed to always be hiring people of color as physicians, especially internationals. And it also led me to realize, like, this hospital, and I can only speak about this specific hospital itself, is just trying to or is making efforts to pay people as little as possible. And unfortunately, that comes in the expense of many people of color, to be honest. They try to find ways to make budget cuts within their place, but those that run it, those that are, for example, the CEO, more than likely is not making budget cuts for his salary, right? So it's at the expense of those that are employed. And for me, it's like, do I want to continue to be in an environment that doesn't pay me what I rightfully deserve? And I feel like I want to, encourage everyone else to look at that as well. When you're in an environment, do you feel like you're represented? Do you feel like you are valued? Especially as people of color, since my YouTube channel is strictly centered on that and that experience, I want to ask you, like, do you feel valued? Do you feel represented? Do you feel like you're being paid what you're worth? And I feel like as people, and this goes for everyone, we should not be okay with being how would I put it? Because I feel like this is also something I've seen in the dating world. It's like, never settle for less. Never settle for less. Not only in dating, not only in finding your life partner, but also in finding your ideal job where you believe you belong. Never settle for less. I find it's something that's so normalized in the society, in this world. Like, settle for less. Yes, let your job take a toll on your health, which, mind you, if it leads to chronic disease in the long haul, these jobs will not be paying for that, right? So consider all these aspects where it's like, what and how is this job affecting my health? And is it worth it, right? And it's never worth it when all is said and done. So I want to leave it at that. I will hopefully keep everyone posted on here with, where I'm going next. I feel like one of the things that I'm going to be doing right now is focusing on being as productive as I can here. Fortunately enough, and this relates more to the environment that I'm in, because as I mentioned, I moved from a very progressive area or place, New York City, right? The melting pot, as they say, to an area that is made up predominantly white individuals or white people, right? And that diversity is not there, right? There that level of awareness of another person's life, or just being comfortable being around other people that have different ways of life. That creates that comfortability and allows you to not look at someone as if they're a threat. And that's the unfortunate part, where that seems to be what has occurred for centuries, since the beginning of time, where people are intimidated by the other, right? Are threatened or feel threatened by the other. And that's why I believe that a place like New York City, I can never stop, praising New York City. Naturally, I've dealt with my fair share of Karens. Let's keep it real. But, and, it was not a kind experience. I feel like it caused a lot of trauma dealing with a lot of white policing. I do find that in New York City, you have no other option but to coexist with everyone. And I've learned so much, and I've gathered so much knowledge, and I've been able to love on people so much in general, like welcome them with open arms because of that alone. So, it's introduced me to so much beauty. The diversity in itself, when we look at nature, when we look at the world around us, there's diversity, right? Colors and diversity in the ecosystem and animal kingdom, all of that. And it's just a reflection of really the world. And it allows me to appreciate so much, because if things were all the same, looked all the same, I know that I would be bored for a fact. So with that, it's sad that I have to be in these circumstances, and hopefully I can keep a diary, which is why I'm here. I'm like, this is kind of like a diary of my life, of where next, what opportunities may arise. I don't foresee myself living here. I think this is a great place maybe to come back to as a summer place, a summer destination, but nothing beyond that, given the fact that it doesn't offer the environment that is conducive for me and for my overall mental and emotional and physical health and well-being. In addition to that, also thrive. I do want to share one last thing, actually, because I was just talking to my partner about this yesterday. And it's a sad thing, because I've personally never felt like I've seen this in New York City. Here in this place, I find that people are boxed into who and how they look, right? Or what background you have. Like if you're from minority communities, there's this expectation or this idea or belief. And I saw even with my colleagues that were individuals that had college under their belt, which is very unfortunate. But and maybe, that doesn't give you a leg up. And I feel like I need to tackle that bias, where it's just like education doesn't equal all these it's like life is more than just knowing or being book smart, right? Or being informed to some degree. It's about being informed about the world. It's not only being informed, like a person can have a very narrow mind and perspective on life, and they can still be educated, right? So I don't want to bring those two together. But yeah, so I saw that, and there's always this like, oh, this community is like this, or this community is the only one that's successful. Like this association with this community is only successful, but every other community, aka minority communities, were automatically labeled unsuccessful, which is insane to me. It absolutely insane to me, because all of my friends, I would say most to all, I would say over 90%, or even almost like 98, 99% of my friends are women and men of color, highly successful in law, in medicine, in all these sectors. And for me to ever think that a POC is automatically doesn't have X, Y, and Z, that pretty much points to some level of success, is in this area. And maybe this is what this area has created or allowed, which is another sad reality. Like, is this location just keeping POCs down? Like the inability to see their own worth, right? To know their worth, to have access to just higher education, for them to develop themselves in whatever way that they desire, our opportunities essentially limited to them, right? So it led me to believe, wow, like I feel like I'm in some other time, like 1900s, like when there was there was blatant, and even prior to that, right? This has been happening since the beginning of time. I feel like I'm living in the past. And it's so sad, because once again, one would assume, oh, the US is all, or maybe in my mind, I had so much wishful thinking, right? So much positivity, or such a positive outlook on the US. And I thought, oh yes, all of the US is inclusive. All of the US has diversity. Although I knew that it didn't, but I assumed, oh, people would love to learn about the world. People love to learn about others. And it's like, no, that doesn't exist. People really are very selfish in nature and probably could only care about themselves, sadly enough. But it's like, that has always been my heart. Like, I want to learn about, and maybe I just believed everyone else wanted to learn and love on people from everywhere and every walk of life. But yeah, so that's one thing that I've also seen, like this hindrance in the communities of color. And I can only say that, even working in these environments has caused me to be like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. This is not okay. And I'm not willing to tolerate this. And unfortunately, it's put me in a position where I'm just like, I need to find a job that allows me to feel safe, allows me to grow in it, or feel like I'm being poured into and not just being they're just taking from me. So it's also become a reality in my own life where it's just like, I don't feel like this is the place for me, opposed to in New York City, where I felt places. I probably experienced one job, and I wish I could out all these companies, organizations, but I understand that there's legality to all of that. So I don't want to, meddle into all of that. Just know that most, if not all, of the places have been healthcare centric. It's a sad reality, especially when I honestly want to include or add that all of these locations that I've had poor experiences, or the very few, the 1% that have had poor experiences, have always had white management. No surprise there, right? They could care less about communities of color. As long as they have their job, as long as they have their role, as long as they're continuously making money, they could care less about the other person. And that's also part of the individualistic lifestyle of the West, where it's never about others. It's so interesting that I've always felt supported, encouraged with my my supervisors that have been women and men of color. I feel like they've actually listened to me, understood me, taken the time to make a change if that was necessary. But with every white individual, it's almost as if it doesn't matter. It's there, but what can I do, right? And there is no effort. It's me, myself, and I stress that so much. But yeah, it's really ugly in this, like, when I really even sit down and talk about it, I'm just like, wow, this place in itself is just ugly at the core. And although I enjoy small things about it, like I'm able to have access to nature and I'm able to see animals. Like I love to feed animals. I love animals. And I don't want to cry. I cry every single time, but like, I feel like something I've spoken on my channel is not only about being kind to humanity, but being kind to animals too. So, so with that being said, I do feel like there's been a silver lining, but I am so ready to go back to a progressive environment to see what I feel, my people, my people. It's almost like a Jessie Wu moment. Oh man, she made a statement that I was just cracking up about, and it was hilarious because I felt that in my soul. I'll try to leave this in a positive note, so I'll say no more. All right, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day.